Saw an old man in a veteran's hat at the service station pumping his gas.
Hello and welcome to Telling It Like It Is, UJ Extension and Southeast District's newest source for local, unbiased, research-based information about Georgia's number one industry, agriculture. If you're new to the podcast, my name is Blake Carter. I'm the Effingham County Ag and Natural Resources Agent, and with me I have my co-host, as always, Savannah Tanner, the Emmanuel County Ag and Natural Resources Agent. And today we have a very special guest that we're going to start the program with. I'm going to call this segment the buzz around flies in cow pastures. All right. That's what I'm going to go with. Savannah loves my punny titles. I'm going to keep rolling with it. So we have Dr. Nancy Hinkle here with us. She's through the Department of Entomology at the University of Georgia. And I'll let Savannah kind of go ahead and start guiding us with some questions. But we are so thankful to have you here with us, Dr. Hinkle.
Thank you. My pleasure.
So, Dr. Hinkle, this time of year, especially as a cattle producer myself, we start seeing flies pretty heavy. If you work them, they get all over you. You get sweaty working, they attach to you too. But one of the issues that we typically see, and we actually started vaccinating against about a month ago in some of our white-faced calves and cows is pink eye, which is predominantly carried by some flies. So can we talk a little bit about the importance of fly control in our beef herd and why it matters, I guess is the question. Why does fly control matter in beef cattle?
Okay, well, flies, of course, is a general term. And usually when a cattleman says flies, he or she's talking about horn flies, the bloodsuckers. But now you're starting us off with face flies here, Savannah. And yes, they are certainly a pest, and nobody wants to have to deal with pink eye. Pink eye is one of those conditions you want to prevent. You don't want to have to be out there sticking antibiotics in cows' eyes. They don't like that, and they can hurt you when they don't like it. So, yeah, controlling face flies is more challenging than we like to think. You've got to get the animals up. You've got to treat them with something that works. And there's not that many things that actually work. Obviously, we don't want to be getting insecticides in the cow's eyes. And so we want to apply it to the face, but not into the eyes, which is challenging. There are, of course, ear tags, and ear tags can be very helpful. Once you put them in, you don't have to go back and retreat for face flies. Generally, the pyrethroid insecticidal ear tags are preferable for face fly control. And that also creates a problem because if you use ear tags this early in the year, they're going to run out just when horn flies are beginning to peak. So it's a real pain, and it's costly to be treating for face flies. But again, to prevent pink eye, we really need to. So there are products listed in the Georgia Pest Management Handbook that are effective against face flies. Most of them are ear tags or dust bags, and that's another consideration. If you don't want to go ahead and put ear tags in this time of year, consider dust bags. They may seem old-fashioned, but they get the job done. So
Now, Dr. Hinkle, I'm gonna cut you off just for a second. For those that don't know the peak, you talked about you're treating for one fly when the horn flies are coming in. When is that seasonality piece there? When does one stop? When does the horn flies start versus the face flies?
that's a good question, Blake. I should be asking you. Something tells me that you folks in Effingham and Emmanuel County may have year-round hornfly populations. Yeah, that's the problem. Is we have a warming climate, and especially you folks near the coast where the habitat is modified by the ocean. Yeah, it never gets cold enough to completely kill off hornflies. So I'll have to ask you when it's hornfly season.
That's why I was just curious. I was kind of asking that as kind of a little bit of a joke question because around here people would just say it's all the time. So that's
You
why I
got
was
it.
kind of curious about that.
Yeah.
So that was just for my local folks there.
Only the people in the North Georgia mountains can actually claim they go without horn flies for a month or two. Yeah. So yes, you really need to look at what's going to work seasonally and maybe tolerate a few horn flies during the cooler parts of the year. We hate to say that, but we really don't have effective control strategies that we can use continuously. And if we do, we're going to have intractable hornfly insecticide resistance, if we don't already.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. I was curious about that. Has there been any documentation of any resistance from the horn flies at the moment?
Yes, pretty much throughout the state, there are populations of hornflies that are resistant to essentially every chemical that we have to use against them. Primarily organophosphates, which we've been using now for what, almost 80 years, and pyrethroids, which we've been using certainly for your entire lifespan.
Oh, yeah.
Pyrethroids go back easily to the 80s, so almost 50 years now that we've been using pyrethroid tags.
So, Dr. Hinkle, you mentioned a word that everybody hates, I guess, in reference to agriculture. It's one of the buzzwords that people cue in on, and they're like, "Oh my God, it's an organophosphate." So talk about, if you don't mind, what happens when we're not controlling these fly populations. I know that you've been working on trying to quantify the concerns with horn flies in cattle. So can you talk a little bit about why the importance is there to manage those flies on some of our beef herds?
Well, as you can appreciate, it's difficult to do tests with horn flies because we can't get any herds that don't have horn flies to compare with them. We do know, and it has been documented, that the average weaning weight of a calf goes up 18% if you can control the flies on the mama cow. And this makes sense. I think we've all been out in a pasture and seen a nursing calf, and the mama cow's got flies on her belly, so she's kicking at the flies on her belly. And she inadvertently kicks the head of the calf, and the calf goes backing up, going, "What'd I do?"
Yep.
And that makes them more reluctant to nurse. And that's the last thing we want with a calf, is one that doesn't want to get its mama's milk. So that's probably the main reason that calves are having lower weaning weights when we don't have good fly control in the mother.
So I'm just wanting to clarify, you said 18%. So if you had a 400-pound calf, that's going to be about 70 pounds. Is that right?
That's probably true, yes. Mm-hmm.
And at $3.50 a head, it starts adding up pretty quickly.
There you go. Yeah.
So we're talking about managing them and the importance of managing them. Tell us a little bit about what are our strategies and what we should be doing to manage horn flies in the populations that we have.
Well, all I can refer to, unfortunately, is the Georgia Pest Management Handbook. And if you look through there, you'll see that we really only have a couple of options for control. We have pyrethroids and we have organophosphates. Now, we have dozens of product names, but if you look at them, the vast majority of the pyrethroids include the active ingredient permethrin. It has a bunch of different brand names, but it's all permethrin. So you can't get any benefit rotating from one permethrin product to another permethrin product. In fact, you can't even get a benefit in rotating from permethrin to Atraban or Starbar ePro or GuardStar, all of which are different brands of permethrin. So you really need to read that little line there that says active ingredient and see what it says. If it's a pyrethroid and you've been using a pyrethroid for the last year, switching to this product is not going to benefit you. Same way with the organophosphates. They have a variety of brand names, and just rotating from one organophosphate to another doesn't help us any. But as you see, we really only have two types of active ingredients. And that's why when you go to the Georgia Pest Management Handbook, there's that column there that's labeled MOA, which seems very esoteric and hard to figure out. That's why we have our extension agents. I recommend that every cattleman call his or her extension agent and say, what MOA have I been using and which one should I use this year? Of course, they'll need the package of the product that they've been using so you can figure out what mode of action they have been using and you can make recommendations for this year.
And
Now, there are
I like what, sorry, Dr. Hinkle. I like what you said though about the MOA because people will call us and tell us the brand name of the chemical, and there are so many generic names for things.
Yep.
Making sure that we know the actual active ingredient is important for us to know the mode of action. So
There you
when
go.
you do call, don't just say, the name brand on the jug. We're going to need to know that little tiny writing that's really hard to see on the bottle.
There you go. They've got a cell phone with them. Take a picture and email it to you so you can read it, or text it to you so you can actually read it for yourself. Because some of these names are really hard to pronounce. Gamma
Ain't that the truth?
cypermethrin. Yeah.
Dr. Hinkle, one thing that I noticed, so you sent me the pest management handbook and some of the notes that you make into that when we were talking about recording this, but one thing that I saw on there and I kind of thought about was one of our options to apply the insecticides are going to be pour-ons, and that's probably one of the most common that I see because it's so easy. You don't actually have to get them into a head shoot. You don't have to stick them with anything. You don't have to stick an ear tag in. Fly control, growth regulator minerals are pretty expensive. So I see a lot of pour-ons. Are there any concerns with using pour-ons in relevance to maybe it also being a dewormer product? Do we have additional concerns with that?
That is an excellent point, Savannah. And our friends in parasitology do warn us that every time we put one of these macrocyclic lactones, which include ivermectin, doramectin, moxidectin, and so on, every time we put one of those on the cow, we're influencing the internal parasites just as much as we're influencing the external parasites, probably even more so. And we know that we have very bad cases of internal parasites being resistant. And we don't want to lose these macrocyclic lactones. They are wonderful. They've been life-changing. But we can see the future and it doesn't look rosy. Fortunately, the macrocyclic lactones are not that good for controlling horn flies, so we don't really recommend it. Horn flies are included on the label because you do get 3 to 5 days of horn fly control. But really, do you want to pay that for the price, pay the price of that product just to get less than a week of fly control? Let's go with something that has a little longer residual, probably doesn't cost much more, and doesn't affect the internal parasites.
So I've kind of led up to it, but can we talk a little bit about the options in regard to some of the minerals that are labeled to control flies?
Now we're getting in. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to ask, how can we fit those into maybe our program, or can we fit those into a management program?
Yes. Now you're getting into the insect growth regulators, and people like these because they have extremely low mammalian toxicity. They don't affect other insects out there. They really don't affect the environment. They have so many benefits to them. The theory here is that you can feed these products to the animal, either in minerals, loose minerals, mineral block, or you can mix it in feed and feed it that way. There are different ways to deliver the product. But the idea is to get it into the gut of the animal. It passes right on through, comes out in the manure, and that's where the maggots are. That's what we're targeting. So it will kill, but it will only affect 2 species, face flies, that you've already mentioned, Savannah, and horn flies, because those are the only 2 flies where the immatures develop in the manure. But you get the benefit that you are treating every possible habitat for these manure breeding flies to develop. That's assuming, of course, that you are successful in treating every animal in the herd. And usually they'll eat the mineral because they need the salt or the other minerals that they get that way. So one thing I wanted to mention while we're discussing this, these products do not get digested. They never leave the gut. They do not get into the blood or the muscles, so they never get into the meat. We don't have to worry about contamination of food. And that's what we want. We want it to pass right out on through the anus and fall to the ground where flies will lay their eggs there, and those eggs will never get to hatch because they're affected by the product in the manure.
Good. I just have one last question. I'm not sure about Blake, but as an entomologist and in entomology, whether or really any of the disease, pathology, things like that we use in agriculture, one of our most familiar terms is IPM, or integrated pest management. How can we use the theory of integrated pest management to help control our fly populations? Is it important to have more than one method of controlling them, and why?
Yes, and even more basic than that, Savannah, the first principle of integrated pest management is to identify the pest. So if somebody is trying to control stable flies by using one of these insect growth regulator feed-throughs, they will not be successful. Stable flies do not develop in manure. So we are not going to be able to control stable flies using these IGRs. Only the horn flies and face flies will be affected by the IGRs. But yes, you're right. We also need to put together as many impactful products as possible to suppress the flies. So consider using feed through. But I didn't mention this. One thing about the feed through, of course, is it's only killing the maggots in the manure. It is not affecting the adult flies. Remember, I said it doesn't get into the blood. So even if the fly is sucking blood from that cow, it's not going to get any of the toxicant. It only affects the immatures. So if you're sharing a fence line with a cattleman who's not doing a very good job in controlling his horn flies, there's not a thing to stop them from flying right over and getting on your herd. So only herds that are really isolated, maybe half a mile or so from another cattle herd, that's kind of hard to find in most of Georgia these days. Yep. Because you don't want to be getting the flies that are coming from your neighbor's herd.
Well, I don't have any more questions in terms of cattle, but I do want to. I know Savannah probably didn't send you this one, so I'm gonna throw you a curveball. But
okay.
I think it's relevant, and I think you would do a good job at just giving some tips. So this time of year, a lot of people are starting to move outside. They're starting to do trails and take their dogs and animals for walks. Ticks and fleas are always a problem, and we get calls a lot about ticks. Do you have any just tips and helpful things for folks that are just, either going on walks for with their pets, their household pets, and just how to keep them from getting a lot of flea or tick outbreaks?
Yes, there are good veterinary products. We couldn't say that 30 or 40 years ago, but now there are products that you can put on your dog, and a tick will not be able to survive on that animal. And I really like these. I'm sure you've heard of many of them. I shouldn't mention brand names, but Bravecto is one of the newest ones, and people love it, and that's for good reason. But just check with your veterinarian, see what's best for your animal. And while you're out, go ahead.
I'm going to put in I was a vet tech in a former life, but I'm going to put in a plug for that. Be very careful about products that you are using from feed stores and Walmart. I think Nancy summed it up wonderful, and talk to your veterinarian. So a lot of people don't realize that the veterinarian products for fleas and ticks can be sold over the counter. You just have to purchase them from the veterinarian. You don't always have to have your dog, depending on your vet. But as a previous vet assistant, be very careful with those products that you buy from over the counter at feed stores and Walmart or Dollar General or places like that.
Exactly. If you care about your pet, you don't want to kill the animal just to try to get rid of fleas and ticks.
Right.
Kind of defeats the purpose there.
And,
but now,
and
while we're talking about
ahead.
ticks, I want to mention the humans as well. I'm not just concerned about the animals.
That's where
humans,
I was going.
Oh, good. Yes, we recommend, I know you hate to hear this, but we recommend that you wear long pants and that you tuck the pant cuffs down into your socks. Only an entomologist wants to look that nerdy, but it can protect you from ticks. And people don't believe this, but ticks do not fall out of trees. I know your grandma may have told you they do, but they don't. All ticks are down on the ground, down in the grass, and they're going to crawl up your leg. So if you put your pants cuff down in your sock, that keeps them from getting to your skin and gives you a longer time to notice them crawling up your jeans, and you can get rid of them that way. Another thing, of course, is you can buy these products now from hiking stores, even some of the
Yep.
big box stores that are for treating clothing only,
Yep.
not to be
Yep.
applied to human skin, not to be applied to your dog, but to be applied to the clothing. And these are pretty impressive products. They're not only repellent, they also are insecticidal. So if the tick persists in staying on the treated surface, the tick will die.
That's
So I
nice.
recommend that. There's several. They all have the active ingredient permethrin. Just ask your local hiking store or wherever about these products.
Yeah, they even make I know a couple years ago at one of our extension conferences, ag agents got these. They ain't you mentioned nerdy looking. They are very nerdy looking hats. All right? I'm not gonna lie to you. They look pretty terrible in terms of fashion. But they were treated with that. And whenever I work in our forestry research plots or anytime like that, I've noticed a very big difference in terms of just wearing those that treated cloth or that treated material versus not. And there's a lot of truth to that. So those are really good products. They work really, really well.
Is that
Um,
keeping deer flies away from you?
so.
Okay. Nothing works well against deer flies.
Yeah, yeah. And if you're down here on the coast, nothing really works for them sand gnats either. Gosh,
Oh,
all them things are bad. But that's a different story for a different day. But that's all I want to just kind of touch on that because we get a lot of questions about ticks and things. Last, if you could just mention anything about what about the A do you know anything about the Asian
longhorn
tick?
tick.
Yes.
It has now been found in 4 Georgia counties. We know it's
Okay.
here. We expect it will continue to spread. So far, we have not determined that it's spread outside those 4 counties, but we won't be at all surprised to hear that it does.
Okay.
It is nasty. It loves cattle, but it will pretty much get on any vertebrate animal. It's been found on birds. It's been found on every mammal out there. It will attack humans, although we are not a preferred host, fortunately. For cattle, it's a particular concern because it transmits the causative agent of theileriosis. Theileriosis is a really nasty condition. The animals that recover from this infection are carriers for life, and 5% of the animals who get infected will die. Nothing we can do about it, no vaccine, no treatment.
Hmm. Where is it primarily right now those 4 counties, is it primarily in the north part of the state or is
Correct. Yeah,
it
right.
okay,
Mm-hmm.
okay, okay. Has it been do we know where it came from? Did it come from just like a neighboring state, you think? Or do other states have that same problem?
Yes, probably. It was
Okay.
actually introduced into the United States from Asia, as you might guess, about
Makes
10
sense.
years ago now. And it came in New Jersey and has moved
Interesting.
from New Jersey southward and westward.
Interesting. Okay. Is there any sign? So if I know we're mostly in the South, so we may or may not have them, but we haven't seen any or detected any. If producers are looking, is there any signs or symptoms that differentiate this tick versus other ticks?
It looks pretty much like every other tick out there. No, not
Okay.
really. But always feel free to bring one to Extension. You can get a picture, send it to me, and I'll be glad to confirm it.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, that's all I had. Savannah, you got anything else?
I don't think so. Dr. Hinkle, thank you. We really appreciate everyone, including yourself, that has been very appreciative and excited to join us on Tilling It Like It Is. So, like I said, I just want to thank you for being part of it today.
Well, thank you for including me. Even though I don't work in green agriculture, I work in animal agriculture.
Listen, the way of the world today is if you don't have beef cows, you can't afford to farm.
Cows pay the bills
For now.
for now.
Eventually it'll swap, but for now,
For now.
cows are the what looks the best. So.
Thank you, Dr. Hinkle. We really appreciate your time being here today. And now we're going to kind of switch gears before we have Savannah kind of go over some last minute upcoming events. But I did want to point out a few things. All right. From a what's going on standpoint, this could be, instead of what's going on, we're going to say what's buzzing. All right. What's the buzz? Right. Because I'm here to talk about yellow-legged hornets. All right. It's not going to affect everybody in the state. And I get that. So, and it's not going to affect everybody in our district or even in Savannah's County and Emmanuel. This might not be relevant to you. Okay. And we hope it doesn't ever become relevant because hopefully we get this problem under control and we contain it. It's Georgia Department of Ag. If you're new to what yellow-legged hornet, what the issue is and everything like that, it's an invasive species that has come into Georgia. It's a potential threat for our honeybees. It's a pretty big deal. So I kind of wanted to go through a little bit on what to do, some of the last updates from the Georgia Department of Ag, and then just some overview of what a yellow-legged hornet and all that, what a good way to identify and things like that. So first and foremost, they're not located statewide. So if you're in another part of the state and you're listening to this podcast or you're outside of Georgia, guess what? You might not have to worry about this. Now, if you are in Chatham County, Bryan County, Effingham County, or Liberty County, basically the Savannah area, I have bad news. We got it, right? And that's something that we're working with. It's not in Atlanta. It's not been found in Metro Atlanta yet, so we don't have to worry about that at the moment. These hornets are not necessarily threatening to humans outside of any more so than any other type of hornet. The problem with this group of hornets is it poses a threat directly to our honeybees and our pollinators in our state, and that's an issue. We say it every podcast, Georgia's number one industry is ag, right? So that's the main economic driver. So pollinators play a crucial role. And USDA estimated that insect pollination adds more than $34 billion in economic value to the U.S. ag crop annually, which is huge, right? So we don't want anything to go to impact that or threaten them and to take out our much needed pollinators. So yellow-legged hornets are a very, very big deal. Yellow-legged hornets, like I said, do not pose that significant threat to humans any more than any other hornet. But people with allergies to bees and wasps do need to avoid them just from a safety standpoint. Now, when we talk about the yellow-legged hornets, how do they differ? So you might be like, oh, it's got a yellow leg. That makes it different. Actually, there's a lot of wasps out there that have yellow legs. So it's like, is that really what we're going to use to identify it? There's some other characteristics that we can use. The biggest being just from a standpoint of identification, if you can get a hold of one in a jar or capture one, you can bring it into either our extension offices in your county, or they have an online portal on Georgia Department of Ag's website that'll let you submit pictures and reports. And then usually within 24 to 48 hours, somebody from Georgia Department of Ag's monitoring team would take a look at them and let you get back in touch with you whether or not it's a positive or a negative identification. Just for everyone's knowledge, when we talk about wasp and hornets, if you're looking this up and you're like, oh, I'm interested to hear more about what's going on with this, you might hear the words wasp and hornet interchangeably. There is a difference, but we use them quite often to mean the same thing. Technically speaking, hornets are not native to North America. The insect we call the ball-faced hornet, which probably everybody knows, is an aerial yellow jacket. It's actually a type of wasp. The European hornet, though, was actually introduced to North America in the mid-1800s, and it's become well established. So it's not a native either, but it's just been here for so long, well, it's here. Wasps are a very large group of insects, and hornets are basically a subset. So Georgia Department of Ag did a really good job. They have like a little fact sheet online, and it gave a really good analogy. So think of the term athlete, and then everyone that participates in sports would be considered that. But football players are a specific group within athletes, right? So that's a subset. Another term that entomologists use is social. Social means that the insects form in a colony with multiple individuals who have different roles. So you've got your foragers, your laying of the eggs, and then caring for the young, etc. So there are different terminologies that you might run into that can help that you might want to familiarize yourself with, just to kind of be aware. They are known to be aggressive towards honeybees. So that's another thing to kind of think about. They can be provoked, or if you disturb the nest, they can get extremely aggressive. So be very, very careful. Don't get too close to it. Try to get pictures from a good distance away if you're looking at the nests. Now, there are several insects, like I said, that have yellow legs. A yellow-legged hornet's leg is dark colored where it attaches to the body, and the last third of the leg is yellow. However, like I said, it's hard to just go off of that. There's a very wide orange to yellow stripe on the insect's abdomen, and that is probably one of the best indicators to go along with it. So that's a good way to kind of identify if you might have one. We also have some jars at the extension office that you can come and bring your sample, and we can kind of check over it. Like I said, to date, the yellow-legged hornets have only been found in the Savannah area. This is a good time of year to look for primary nests. So they're going to be about the size of a softball all the way up to a watermelon. And they usually show up about late spring, early summer. They're typically in trees, bushes, higher up awnings, things like that. They're bigger than the embryo nest that if you look up, it's about the size of a tennis ball. And I want to encourage you, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to the Extension Office or Georgia Department of Ag, or go online. Their online reporting website is super easy. They did a really good job with it, and they are very fast at response. We do recommend that you contact Georgia Department of Ag for nest removal, though. So don't do it yourself unless there's only a few times that people have done it themselves. We really just strongly recommend that you call Georgia Department of Ag first. And then they can work with you to make the plan to get rid of it, because the problem is not the eradication, because we have several people that have gotten rid of them. It's just making sure that we kill the queen, right? So if the queen stays, they'll rebuild a nest somewhere else. And then also, if there are yellow-legged hornets in the area, we want to deploy traps and monitor, so we can remove any other yellow-legged hornet nests in our area. So that's the other reason why we want to make sure of. And like I said, if you go online, you can go to, they have a reporting form, yellow-legged hornet report form. If you just Google that, it'll come up. Or you can actually email yellow.legged.hornet@agr.georgia.gov. That's yellow.legged.hornet@agr.georgia.gov. Keep your eyes out if you're in this area. This insect is a major threat to our pollinators in our area. And if you have questions, reach out to your local extension or reach out to Georgia Department of Ag directly. All right. That kind of sums up the buzz behind the yellow-legged hornet and our What's Growing On segment for this week. I'm going to shoot it over to Savannah real fast and let her finish up with some upcoming programs.
All right, well, we're going to transition into talking about some upcoming events. We have some really good ones that are coming up. Little time frame, within the next few weeks, but Jefferson County does have a pecan field day. That is coming up on May the 21st. Please make sure you RSVP to that event by contacting the Jefferson County Extension Office. We also have a scout school coming up in Midville. That's for anybody that's interested in learning how to scout insects and row crops. I will tell you, we've got a lot of really young farmers or farmers' kids that are coming up around Emmanuel County and around some of our other areas, and we are so excited to see the younger generations interested in farming, this would be a really good half day event for students or those of you that have graduated recently and are going home to be on the farm. Really good opportunity for you. Blake, did you have something about that?
Well, I just wanted to say there was a few other events, but you want to keep going? Why don't you start? I just wanted to say I had a few events I wanted to talk about. Like I had like a few that I have not told you about.
Okay.
So if you want
We
to,
also
yeah.
have the Georgia Forage Corn and Silage Field Day. That's on June the 12th down in Tifton. If you're interested in silage and baleage, that's a really good opportunity to go learn about varieties and the processes of baling and some of the updates that we have with that. Um, Blake, you had a few more that I'm missing, so tell us about the events you have.
Yeah, if you're in Effingham County or around here, we do have our upcoming Young Farmer and Rancher Farm and Agricultural Industry Tour. We have a really good event planned. Ben Richardson, our Young Farmer advisor in the county, is phenomenal. And we've got a really good itinerary. It's going to be on the 17th of May. If you have questions or interested in that, you can contact me or contact Ben Richardson to for more information. If you've not joined Effingham Young Farmers, that does not make you excluded from being able to join or come be a part of this tour, get your feet wet in the organization as a whole. I'd say, I'm going to be biased and say we have one of the best advisors in the state, and Savannah, you'll probably say the same thing about yours too. We're that close with our folks, but I do love this the tour we have set up. It's really going to focus on timber and goats and some of the meat processing. So I think it's really cool. One other thing I do want to mention that's coming up, if you're age 18 to 35 and you are interested in farming or in your area or you're thinking about it or already involved, we have the Young Farmer and Rancher Farm Bureau's Young Farmer and Rancher 2025 Summer Leadership Conference. That's in July 16th through the 19th. And that's going to be in Jekyll Island, so not very far away from our area. It's in our district. If you are interested in that, reach out to your local Farm Bureau, and they can get you in touch with your district or your group Young Farmer and Rancher program. They can get you more information. I know I'll be in attendance. I think Savannah, you might be as well. But it'll be a good opportunity. So please reach out if you're interested in those as well.
One other thing that I just want to point out is all of the information that we talk about on the podcast and the speakers that we have, all of that information, not only the episodes, but any resources or handouts or publications that UGA has, we actually transpose those onto the Tillin' It Like It Is website. And then we also have a Facebook page that's got a lot of good information on it and can get you onto that website to see, our upcoming events and the resources that we have and use for these podcasts. We also have a new TikTok channel going on, and if Blake decides to put a horrible video of me up again, we're gonna be canceling Tilling It Like It Is. But that being said, we certainly want to thank you guys for being a part and listening. If you have any ideas or topics that you would like for us to cover, please reach out to us. Our contact information is on that Tilling It Like It Is Facebook and website. And we would just love to get any ideas or feedback that you guys have. And that being said, stay safe, travel safe, keep farming, and keep tilling it like it is. Thank you.